Alright, here's the 411, folks.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the studio. I'm your host, Neil Datello, and this is the 411 Podcast. As always, to my left, my buddy Pat Daly.
Pleasure as always, brother.
And to my right, Mr. Michael Quattromani.
Once again, happy to be here.
Fellas, how are we feeling?
Oh boy. I'm very excited to be here, everybody. Little tropical storm.
Yeah. Yep.
A little crazy. Today's what? The 4th? August 4th?
Yep.
Yeah.
We got a very
Crazy.
interesting day to talk
Summer
about.
is kind of flying.
There you are.
Flying by. We got one more
It's
month.
felt like summer since like March. I think.
It's
Yeah,
the
facts.
craziest thing.
Mike,
and on that Rona note, we got a lot to talk about.
We do have a lot of time
Mike,
to
how
go.
are you?
I didn't look. We decided we were gonna do podcasts once a week. Probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago.
I love
Like once we get to August, I mean, how much football news is really gonna come out? It hasn't been like a crazy amount given the circumstance, but I mean, a lot of opt-outs. A lot of opt-outs, especially on the Patriots.
Crazy.
And it's sad, but it's given us something to talk about.
So, as of yesterday, 43 players have opted out of the 2020 NFL season, and I think the leagues and
8 of which
everyone's...
being Patriots players.
8 of which being Patriots players. So I think the priority right now is kind of the safety of the players and coaches. Especially because most players in the NFL right now, what do you think, like 25 to 30 years old, starting to like settle down, have kids. Most players are having kids. Russell Wilson just had a kid. Hightowers, we know he had a baby 2 weeks ago. What are your thoughts on that? Who wants to start it off?
Alright, I'll take it.
Go
So, I should list all 8 of the players that, as we know right now, on August 4th at 10:49 a.m., have opted out. We have Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung, Brandon Bolden, Danny Vitale, I think is how you pronounce it, Najee Torin, Marquise Lee, Matt Lacoste, and Marcus Cannon.
And I think the last one was kind of interesting. So Marcus Cannon, he is, and I've kind of seen this. So Marcus Cannon has had a ton of health issues. He had cancer. He's a cancer survivor. I think his was more personal health as opposed to, I feel like most of the players opting out.
Like my friends and family.
My friends and family.
Well, most of them
people
are.
close
I mean,
to
Patrick
me.
Chung has, I think his grandfather has like asthma or something. Dante Hightower has a kid. Most of them are not because they think the season is not because they think the season is they're opting out because of that, but it's more for not for their personal, but it's more for like their family.
Yes, it's the greater good. Which
and Bill Belichick said that like he respects that and he can't not respect it because I mean they're opting out for their personal health and more importantly the health of other people that are close to them. But I think that this is all so out of these players, I think that there were really only 3 of them that were starters for the Patriots last year, not including Brandon Bolden, who was starting on special teams. And once in a while took like an offensive snap.
I think I know exactly what 3 players.
But there were 3 players that started last year: Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung, and Marcus Cannon. I mean,
literally.
Well, those were the 3 starters.
No, that's what I'm saying. I want to get into all 3 of those players.
Yeah, exactly. So I do want to, Pat and I can tag team it. 4 out of 8 of those players are over the age of 30 years old, which I think also contributes to them opting out, but more importantly, it means these players are on the decline. And I think we saw Hightower, he's been declining for years on end. Patrick Chung showed us that last year.
Season.
Marcus Cannon has been declining.
Hightower's declined. I don't think it's been an absurd decline.
Not absurd,
Okay, he's
but
still
it's-
one of those
I think he's still one of the best linebackers in the league.
It's still pretty significant, though.
It's significant.
And I think that we're going to see an even bigger decline. He's lost a lot of speed. A lot of speed.
Yes.
And he showed that he can't. He used to be able to keep up with a lot of running backs. He can't anymore.
And
it kind of opt into other players that can assume that role. Hightower can't anymore.
And is it going to kind of beg the question, is he going to have a spot on the team in 2021?
Well, yeah.
If he decides to return
the salaries roll over into the next season potentially.
Nice.
So, which is another thing. Patriots got a lot of salary cap, but I want to get into that later. I want to get into that later.
Okay.
Not
It's going to be very, very interesting.
Very
I was going to talk about that too. I want to say a little something because to everybody watching at home. So on this podcast, I frequently look realistically into situations. I don't like to be optimistic. I don't like to be unrealistic. I find myself being optimistic sometimes.
Yeah.
I do find myself because I'm naturally
like 85%.
That is not true. Sometimes
you're an optimist.
Sometimes I'm an optimist by nature.
Which is a good thing.
It's a good thing. I'm an optimist by nature, though. I can't be optimistic about this. This is not an optimistic situation for the Patriots.
This is weird.
Or the National Football League.
Pessimistic for the Patriots.
And you're optimistic today?
I'm very optimistic
Interesting.
about this.
we just lost Hightower, Chung, and Cannon. How can you be optimistic about this?
Hightower's been losing his step, but here's the thing.
On top of all the defensive pieces that we've already
Hightower
lost.
is going to be the biggest loss, not just for his on-playability, but because he was a captain on defense and he was a leader in the locker room. And more importantly, they lost 2 of their starting linebackers last year. That's why I think Hightower's loss is going to be big, not just because of his impact on the field. I think his impact on the field is, subpar. I don't think he's that great of a linebacker this year.
But I think especially what you're saying about his impact in the locker room. And look, Belichick, not to see saw this coming and Belichick predicted a pandemic, but his first 3 picks were all defensive pieces. Kyle Duggar, Josh Uche, and Frank Jennings.
They lost 20 pieces of free agency.
Exactly, but now my concern is, who exactly, obviously you can have guys that can teach them, but, they're going to be set back in learning the, quote, Patriot way or the Patriot defensive system because of the loss of Hightower and Chung.
No, I think it's just going to be because we don't have any off-season workouts, and we're not going to have preseason. We're not going to have training camp. Well, we'll have training camp, but
we're pretty much going to be hopping right into the regular season.
Exactly. So I think that's what's going to hurt the linebackers, and that's what's going to hurt really just the overall pieces that come here. But I want to talk about Patrick Chung for a second.
I do too.
Because he's another piece that we lost. I don't think this is going to be a very big loss at all. Their secondary last year was top 3 in the NFL, if not number 1 in the NFL, and they really didn't. I think their secondary got better. They lost Juwan Harmon and they lost Patrick Chung, but they got Kyle Duggar and Adrian Phillips, and they got Stephon Gilmore for another year, and they get Devin McCarty back for another year. Alright, better is maybe a stretch, but I don't think they got as worse as people are saying. Patrick Chung is a really good safety, but he's also lost his step. He's 32 years old.
He's old.
He can't cover tight ends like he used to be able to.
He used to be a monster covering tight ends.
But he can't anymore. And I think that you're opting in, I keep on saying opting out, but you're getting a younger player, Adrian Phillips, who was extremely underrated, and you're getting your second round pick in Kyle Duggar, who is arguably the biggest wild card on your team. He might be a really good safety.
Very true. I still don't think that denies the fact that Chung was still a pretty key part of our defense.
He was. I just don't think that it's going to be a big of a loss. I really don't.
Do you see...
Well, hold on. You don't think he was... You think he was a key part of our defense, but you don't think it's a big loss? Those statements are kind of contradictory.
Because I think our secondary is good enough to where we don't really need him. I think we'll still be okay without him. I think J.C. Jackson was a really good cornerback last year. I think he's going to take another step up. I think a lot of our pieces that, like Jawan Bentley, a linebacker, I think he's going to get better this year.
Yeah. Look, Bill Belichick has come out on numerous occasions saying that Patrick Chung is the best tackler that he has ever seen. And Bill Belichick does not throw compliments around very frequently, as we know. If he's good in Bill Belichick's eyes, he's an important player in my eyes. I think it's a big loss, but I do agree with you, Michael, that we have Duggar, who is an absolute wild card who no one saw coming in the second round. But I agree. We have Adrian Phillips. I think there are going to be a lot of key pieces. They're going to be able to fill it. I was going to say this at the end, but Belichick's going to be able to fill these holes. I know that he's going to. It's still not good for the team, though, losing a veteran like Chung.
I'm not going to sit here and say it helps the team.
Right.
I don't think that... Look, on paper, the Patriots have 8 players that opted out. But I was talking to Neil earlier about it. I'd much rather have 20 players opt out who are no names.
One that's like Gilmore, yes.
You know what I mean? They didn't lose Edelman. They didn't lose Newton. They didn't lose Gilmore. They didn't lose James White. I think the top player they lost was Dante Hightower, and that's going to be hard to fill. But, you got to kind of rely on your linebackers, Anthony Jennings and Josh Uche, who they drafted in the 2nd and 3rd round. You have to rely on Juwan Bentley in his junior season. There are players that are going to have to step up a little earlier than the Patriots would like or would have expected them to. But these are circumstances that you're just going to have to adjust to.
So do you think Bill will trade for or sign any other defensive players?
$25 million in cap space. That's how much they've accumulated.
And they went from so for reference,
they went from under $1 million.
They had $200,000 after they signed Cam. $200,000 and they went to $25 million.
Yeah. So
that's kind of ridiculous.
Crazy.
And I think that is
free agency.
That is
in the off season. Far from over. There are still a lot of free agents. I'm just gonna rattle off the top 10. Right? I'll just rattle off top 5. Jadeveon Clowney, Laurie Warford, who's a really good guard. Logan Ryan, ex-Patriot. Everson Griffin, and Josh Gordon. Then you get Eric Reed,
Logan Ryan's a little
Mike
past his
Daniel,
prime.
Dre Kirkpatrick, and Devontae Freeman.
Wouldn't shock me.
Those are still.
Logan Ryan, bring back before Patriot, wouldn't shock me.
I would really not. I don't think it's the biggest need, but I mean, just seems like a match.
I'd be excited about it to bring back Logan Ryan, but like, he's a little past his prime, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he's getting older. Clowney, I would love to see.
I don't think that he's going to do like the Cam Newton minimum contract though. So I don't want to sign Clowney.
Well, I don't think. Not like teams aren't like rushing to have him, but like he's still a free agent. I feel as though.
I don't know.
I feel like
not even $1 million this year. So
I feel like if the Patriots were to throw some money on him, even if it's a little bit, as we said, they have a ton of cap room now. That wouldn't shock me at all if he ended up as a Patriot.
Look, I think I'm agreeing with Michael going back on what Mike said about Dante Hightower. I really do think that Hightower was one of the most important losses for them this year.
Mm-hmm.
With everybody opting out, it's getting crazy. I know we've talked about Michael. He's taking a little bit, not even a little bit. He's taking a digress. He's slowing down. And how old is he now? 31.
I think he's 31 or 32.
31, 32. Yeah, similarly to Chung though, he led this defense to Super Bowls. He did. Yep. He's a leader on this defense. A 2-time Pro Bowler. There's talks. I know Michael's going to start screaming at me, and I'm not going to say I agree or disagree with this. And I don't know, maybe you do agree with this. There are talks about a Dante Hightower Hall of Fame. Like, there are talks about him being in the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying that I have
Hall of Fame.
No. I've seen Hall of Fame. I think he's a lock Patriots Hall of Famer. I've seen Hall of Fame talks. I'm not going to say I agree with those. All I'm saying is that there are talks about him. He's a pretty solid player.
Like 2 or 3 Super Bowls.
He's a hard player to lose. That's all. Dude, that's just the facts. This isn't an opinion thing. This is a fact that people have talked about Dante Hightower being Hall of Famer. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm just letting you know that if people are talking about it, he's probably a pretty solid player and a pretty difficult player to lose.
He is solid, and I don't want to... Obviously, I'm probably making him sound less than what he is because he is a very solid linebacker. And I think that, in normal podcasts, we don't talk about Dante Hightower for 20 minutes, but I think we have to because out of all the opt-outs, he is the biggest loss.
Mm-hmm. Especially as leaders,
he's already a top 5 most valuable player on the Patriots, though. Which speaks to how 8 opt-outs really aren't that crazy. I mean, I'll read them over again.
Compared to other
Dante
teams,
Hightower,
we need
Patrick
the most.
Chung, Brandon Bolden, Danny Vitale, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Najee Torin, Marquise Lee, Matt LaCosse, and Marcus Cannon. 3 of those players, haven't even played a snap for the Patriots yet.
It's actually kind of interesting because Mike recently had the stat of the 15 Patriot players, so they've had offense, defense, special teams, the guys that had the most snaps last year. 8 of the top 15 Patriots won't be playing on the Patriots this season, which is crazy to me. So obviously that includes Tom, but just...
It's going to be a new season, but I don't think that a lot of those players are from the opt-outs. Hightower, Chung, and Cannon. That's it. No, LaCosse got injured the entire season, only had 130.
Also not very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brandon Bolden was a special teamer. Marquise Lee didn't take a snap. Najee Torin was injured, didn't really take much of a snap. Danny Vitale was a fullback, played for the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these guys
are. So are you still confident in this Patriots team as we were?
My prediction on them doesn't really change because of this. Look, if more players come to opt out, then yeah, my opinion is going to change. But I can't stress it enough. The offseason isn't over yet.
The deadline.
We thought that Jarrett Stidham was going to be their starting quarterback week 1, right? Cam Newton. I mean,
I don't know.
Bill Belichick.
No, dude, there were talks. I mean, this was so funny. There were talks. Like, we had an entire podcast. We look like idiots now in quarantine back in April. So how do you think Stidham's gonna do? We had no idea.
Our second to last podcast of the year was what is our confidence in Jarrett Stidham? We were all pretty confident.
Season
I think
1. Or season 2 rather.
But I think that having Cam Newton is just, and it's been in the talks for a while, right? How do we know that there aren't Jadeveon Clowney talks?
Mm-hmm.
How do we know that there aren't Everson Griffin? There are guys out there the Patriots can go after that we just don't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's really all I have to say.
I think one more thing that's important to mention is Marcus Cannon. I think, he's never been a star on the offensive line, but he's on the offensive line. And any loss on the offensive line isn't a good one, especially with A, Tom Brady, obviously, not good, and B, a new quarterback. It's never good to have an injury on the offensive line with a new quarterback. Never, and it's simple as this. He's never played there before. He's never felt it out before. And it sounds kind of stupid for that analysis, but he's never played there before. He's not going to know what that offensive line plays like. He's not going to know anything about it.
And Pat, I can't really argue with you against that. Cannon's going to be a big loss.
It's going to be, honestly, no, I'm not going to say it's bigger than Hightower.
Yeah.
But I was going to say it, and I was like, no, that makes no sense. No, it's not. It's not.
I just think the only reason Hightower's the bigger loss is because he was like your last linebacker piece.
Right.
And he was your last captain, except for McCourty. Is Gilmore a captain?
I don't think so.
I don't know if Gilmore's. I know McCourty is. I know Hightower is.
Look, Cannon's a solid player. He's made second team All-Pro. He can be replaced. I think Joe Tooney is going to bump over.
There have been talks about that. I thought about that.
And the exact situation happened last year when Marcus Cannon went down against the Steelers week 1. Tooney bumped over. I think history will repeat itself, and I think Tooney will be playing right tackle this season.
But then you get like Froholt or Kahusti or whatever his name is playing.
I also think it's a method of swallowing the pill of that franchise tag in Tooney too. I think making him a little more valuable on that.
Yeah, if you put a right tackle, I think that franchise tag starts to look actually valuable.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think it works. It's almost a little bit of a two-headed monster. I do think it kind of works in two ways. I think it's killing two birds with one stone. You fill the right tackle spot that Marcus Cannon leaves, and it solves the franchise tag problem. It gives it a little more value, and I think that's really important.
I think Bill. I think before all the opt-outs, it was up to Bill's discretion whether he was going to go out and make another trade or go out and sign another guy to just beef up the defense or offense. I think he's kind of forced into that now. I think he has to. I think he has to go out and add another piece because I think they have lost. Marcus Cannon, Dante Hightower, and Patrick Chung are pieces on this team that, in my opinion, aren't the hardest to fill, but you have to fill them. And I think that it's unrealistic.
You can't just leave them.
Especially for Belichick.
Matt Lacoste, you can leave.
Yeah.
What's the fullback's name?
Danny. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I think it's Vitale or Vitale or something.
You can leave it be. Dante Hightower.
Yeah.
Marcus Cannon. Patrick Chung. They're going to have to be
replaced. Those are veterans that
replaced.
you have to fill.
Those are the top three. The most important.
I just know Bill Belichick doesn't give rookies the chance they're rookies in, except for Sony Michel.
Right.
They don't give rookies the time. They kind of have to go out. I think Bill has to go out there and he has to sign or trade for a few pieces.
Yeah.
Quick shout out to our sponsors, Daily Orton Attorneys at Law, located in Warwick, Rhode Island. They're a full-service law firm that can handle all of your legal needs. Contact Kevin Daly at Daily Orton Attorneys at Law, 401-921-5901, and he'll be more than happy to assist you. Boys, that's right. I kind of want to get into, so we covered all the Patriots. I want to kind of get into all around, in general, thoughts on the situation. So I feel like, do you guys think we'll see an uptick in players opting out just out of fear they'll cut just so they can make a little bit of money?
It reminded me of Steven Gostkowski last year.
Yeah.
It was really bad, and he was being threatened to get cut.
Yep.
So but then he's like, "Ow, my knee!"
Yep.
And then got
on the IR. Yep.
So I don't know. I think that for the players who really need to make money this year, because if they don't, because not all football players are extremely rich. I mean, some of them actually need the paycheck. But then again, they're football players in the NFL. They're probably making a good amount of money. So I don't think that they necessarily need to.
Do even practice squad guys make a solid amount of money?
Yeah, I don't think they really need to opt out in order to
make ends meet.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, look, maybe someone's chasing the bag. Maybe someone's just trying to make some cash. I don't think that's a dumb point. I completely see what you're saying. But do I think that a lot of people are going to do it based off of that? No. But do I think that we're going to see a lot more opting out?
Well, the NFL actually moved the deadline up, which Devin McCourty ripped the NFL to pieces for, because it's just kind of giving NFL players less time to think about it, so they probably won't opt out, which is not okay. I mean, OBJ said he doesn't think the season should happen, but he didn't opt out.
Right.
So,
which is a little strange. There have been talks. Russell Wilson had a kid, a week and a half ago. I'm going to ask Michael this one. Do you think it's a deal breaker if Russell opts out?
Duh.
So because
he's not their team, but he is the focal point of their team. I think it's pretty obvious.
Won a Super Bowl 11 there.
Would that change your number 2 power ranking?
They'd probably go from 2 to like 17. I mean, he's their offense along. He has pieces to throw to, but if you don't have a quarterback to throw to those pieces, then they're
how good are those pieces?
Who's their backup? Geno Smith or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it actually Geno Smith?
I'm pretty sure it's Geno Smith.
I'll find it.
I haven't thought about Geno Smith in a while. Oh my! He played for the Jets for a while.
Yep.
Whew. Last one was
Geno Smith.
That's ridiculous.
Wow.
I actually kind of have 2 more questions to wrap up. So, do you think, because there was some talk, I think it's just kind of human nature that they may be perceived as, like traitors or kind of like betraying the team, like, oh, we're out here, we're still there, why aren't you here with us?
No, I think players have pretty much understood why people are doing this.
Oh, absolutely. I just feel as though, subconsciously they're kind of thinking, all right, I'm out here, I'm working my butt off.
Think about it like this. If you are a rookie, an eager rookie, who has worked since the day he was 5 years old playing on a football field saying, Mom, I want to be in the NFL. You get to the NFL, you're single, you don't have really a ton of responsibilities, you live on your own, and you're finally about to make money, you're finally going to make your dream come true.
Yep.
And then Rona happens, you don't have any kids to get sick, why would you not play? You have nothing to lose. Just, you know what I mean? Like, you just
that's
do
why
it.
I think that's part of the reason I haven't seen any rookies opt out yet.
Whereas someone who is 31 has
just
won 2 Super Bowls.
Could have retired 3 years ago.
And just had a kid. He doesn't have to play. Do you know what I mean? Whereas a rookie who has worked his entire life.
For the first time in years, the Patriots aren't Super Bowl contenders.
Yep.
Right.
Which is why I think it's kind of surprising why the offensive tackle on the Chiefs opted out and Damian Williams opted out. I mean,
which opens the door for a lot.
It opens the door for the AFC in general because I don't think any major Ravens players have opted out yet. So, I mean,
what's Lamar just opt out?
Huh?
What's Lamar opt out?
Oh my God, that'd be nuts. I have one question. I want. Do you think, as of right now, that we will see football in 2020?
I do.
That was actually that was my wrap-up question. So,
I do.
I promised myself back in the beginning of season 2, episode 1. It crossed my mind. Are we not going to have football this year?
Yeah.
Because then I was thinking, how are we going to do the podcast? I was getting kind of worried. But I have to ask, are we going to see football in 2020?
I think we do. I think
we will too, and I think it goes beyond, we love football, and we're like, oh, we need football but like, some people rely on football to survive. And like Stephen A. Smith put out a report, like either yesterday or this morning, if the University of Alabama does not play football this year, it will cost Tuscaloosa's economy over $200 million. That's how much revenue football generates to that small town. So I feel like it goes way beyond
$4 billion.
Oh yeah, it goes way beyond just.
It's more than the game.
It's more than the game. It's more than the players. It's more than watching on TV. It's more than the money that they're going to lose.
And you know what?
Fans.
I think that's super important. And on that note, I think that's why the season is going to happen.
Because it's not about the owner. Getting. $5 or $6 million short change. It's about the janitor that needs that job to survive. It's about the grounds crew at Gillette or whatever stadium. It's about those guys because they rely on that paycheck for their survival, for their family's survival.
And look, these players are obviously, their health is important, dude. Like the players' health, and that's why the NFL.
Please don't say but.
The option to opt out. No, there is a but. These are and that's obviously the most important thing. But at the end of the day, the NFL is a business.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
It's all.
If you're putting
this is, and we kind of hate like saying
exactly,
but it's more.
Happen.
You think it shouldn't happen? That wasn't the question. Do you think it's going to happen?
Or actually, no. Do you think?
Yeah. To answer my own question of should it happen? No. I personally, it pains me. I mean, you guys know how much I love the sport. We all love the sport, but. I think it's going to. The college football is going to lose $4 billion, and the NFL is like 4 times as profitable than college football, so they'd lose $16 to $20 billion. I mean, It's a lot of money.
Yeah, because you gotta think like merchandise. Every team has like a pro shop that's coming
I think
from
they
like.
have to. I will say with almost full certainty, obviously not going to be any fans for the regular season, and I wouldn't be surprised. And I'm going to expect that we're going to see a shortened season, kind of like the MLB.
Yeah, I think the kind of, as Michael said, the MLB. I think that's the most comparable thing, league, just because there's no. It's impossible to put a bubble, so you can't.
NBA and NHL 0 cases because they're in the bubble. NFL can't do that, and I think that's at MLB. They might cancel. Right. MLB has, but it's Rob Manfred has said, "Hey, if you guys don't get your act together, season's over."
Yeah.
So
and that's kind of the thing is, but baseball's a little bit different because football is the obviously you're sweating, you're bleeding, there's liquid everywhere.
MLB's not really. I mean,
you're technically socially distant anyway.
Yeah.
Like you're not besides tagging or the proximity to catcher to batter. I think the umpires are behind the mound now.
Look at the offensive and defensive line.
Like it's
10 guys
just
on the line,
touching each other the whole game. Like that's all they do the whole game.
Look at cornerback and wide receiver. I mean, they're right.
They're on top
every time. So look at the sidelines. I mean, they can fix that and make it more separated. But I just think there are so many variables that go into this and so many things that can go wrong. I don't see how there's a full season played. One player gets it on a team, and you're so close quarters, every player's going to get it. Yeah. And then you have to cancel that game, which means that you have to cancel the team that just played them. You have to cancel the upcoming games that they don't get. And because it's 14 days that you have the coronavirus for, you have to cancel 2 weeks of the season. Yeah, that's only a seventh of your season done.
Yeah, that's not
for one case.
For one case.
MLB's a lot more practical, just because it's socially distant, but B, it's a lot easier to postpone scheduled games because there's more games. Football,
as of right now, I don't see any playoffs.
You need to have a week of rest just to recuperate and rest your body and
That's the only thing the NFL is going for them is they only have one game a week, whereas with NBA and NHL and MLB kind of upwards of 3, 4, or 5.
Well, I think NFL's almost worse just because of the close contact and the close quarters.
Even just in the sense of not being able to.
Yeah, the frequency of having games, I suppose. All right, boys. Final remarks. What are our thoughts?
Look, this isn't good for the Patriots. If I had a scale, just looking balancing the two things that have happened. You have on the left side losing Hightower, Cannon, and Chung, and on the right side you have some rookies, some young players to fill these spots. But $25 million in cap space. I look at those two things and I say losing those players are worse. I don't think this is good for the Patriots, and I know Michael disagrees with me.
I think that the offseason was stressed heavily upon trying to get younger, and I think this kind of forces them to get younger. Because, like I said, you lose 4 out of the 8 players were over the age of 30.
But I think we're going to see the effect in that in a decrease in performance.
Yeah, I just
especially over the next 3 years. If this is a common trend,
I think that's due to Belichick being forced to thrust some of these inexperienced, obviously rookies inexperienced, into positions where he wouldn't want to do that for maybe 2 or not 3, but 2 years. So I mean, we'll see what some of these guys got. I'm excited to see what Josh Lucci has. I'm excited to see what Kyle Duggar, Anthony Jennings, the 2 tight ends. Dalton Keene's been getting a lot of hype over the last few weeks, especially since Matt LaCosse, it was just yesterday, but he opted out, and a lot of hype is around Dalton Keene and Devin Asiasi. I mean, I'm excited what these guys got. I'm excited to see what Cam Newton has. You know what I mean?
A lot of question marks, but they're excited.
There's a lot of excitement because last year there was no uncertainty. We knew what the Patriots were. We knew what we had, right? 2 years ago, for the last 10 years, we know what we've had with this team.
I mean, we've never really doubted it, or there was no question. We're like, oh, we lost, 6 guys, but we still have Tom Brady.
We don't know what we have. We don't know. I think the floor of this team is 6 and 10. But this team can be as good as 11 and 5. That's a 5-game difference.
I think a little bit better. I think 12 and 4.
Yeah, more to my point. This team has a very extreme, ceiling and floor. So I'm excited to see what they got. We're gonna see a lot of young guys on the field if there's a season.
Certainly. Boys, I think we just about wrapped up.
My name is Michael Quattromani signing off.
I'm Pat Daly signing off.
I'm your host, Neil Latello, signing off. This is the 4-1 Podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah.